The alarm hit my ears before I even opened my eyes, and I knew something on this station had gone terribly wrong. I rolled out of my bunk and grabbed my jacket, my heart already pounding. The sound coming through the walls was not the alarm. It was a scream, high and broken, coming from Bay 4, and it did not stop. I ran through the corridor, past crew members standing frozen with their hands over their ears. Nobody was moving toward the sound. Everybody was moving away from it. A tall alien named Vora stopped me before I reached the door. Her 4 eyes were wide with something I had never seen on her face before, which was fear. "Don't go in there, Daniel," she said. "The cub has lost control. Nothing is working." "What cub?" I asked. "The Scar cub, the last one born from the breeding program. She was fine an hour ago. Now she will not stop screaming, and her body is shutting down from the stress. If this continues, her heart will fail." I had heard about the Scar before. They were an apex predator species, built with 6 limbs and teeth strong enough to crack solid armor plating. They were nearly extinct, and this cub was supposed to be the hope for bringing them back. I looked through the reinforced glass window of Bay 4. Inside, a creature about the size of a large dog was throwing herself against the walls again and again. Her cries were raw and desperate. Every specialist on this station stood outside that door, helpless. A woman named Priya, the lead scientist on the project, came running down the hall with a data pad in her hand. Her face was pale. "We tried sedatives," she said, breathing hard. "We tried sound therapy, temperature control, even a recording of her mother's heartbeat. Nothing calms her. Her stress levels are still rising." "How much time do we have?" I asked. "Maybe 20 minutes before her heart cannot take any more strain." 20 minutes. That was nothing. I looked through the glass again, watching the cub slam into the wall, her cries echoing through the corridor like something breaking apart. Every alien scientist on this station had years of training. They had machines, medicine, and knowledge I could never match. And still, none of it was working. I thought about my childhood, growing up on a small farm with animals that were scared of thunderstorms, scared of loud engines, scared of the world being too big and too loud. I remembered one thing that always worked, every single time, no matter how frightened the animal was. A small space, a place to hide. It sounded too simple to matter here, on a station filled with advanced alien technology. But the cub was still an animal, and fear does not care what planet you come from. "I need a box," I said. Priya stared at me like I had lost my mind. "A box? Daniel, this is a matter of life and death, not a game." "I know that," I said. "Just trust me. Get me a large shipping crate, open on one side, right now." She hesitated for only a second, before nodding and running toward the cargo hold. I followed her, my legs moving faster than I thought possible. Every second mattered. We reached the cargo bay, and I found a container about waist high, strong enough to hold its shape, empty and light. I grabbed a cutting tool and sliced a small opening near the bottom, just wide enough for the cub to squeeze through. Vora arrived behind us, watching with confusion. "What are you building?" "A hiding place," I said. "Trust me." We carried the box back to Bay 4 as fast as we could. My arms burned from the weight, but I did not slow down. Every step echoed with the sound of the cub screaming, growing louder and more desperate. When we reached the door, Priya looked at the monitor showing the cub's vital signs. Her face went pale again. "Her heart rate just spiked further," she said. "We are running out of time." "Open the door," I said. "Daniel, she could hurt you. She is not thinking clearly. She does not know friend from danger right now." "I know," I said, "but if we do nothing, she does not survive this hour. Open the door." Vora looked at Priya, and after a long pause, Priya nodded. The door slid open with a quiet hiss. The sound hit me like a wave the moment I stepped inside. The cub was thrashing near the far wall, her sharp claws scraping against the metal, her breathing fast and shallow. She looked exhausted, terrified, and completely lost. I moved slowly, keeping my body low and small, carrying the box with both arms. I did not look directly at her. I placed the box gently in the corner of the room, with the opening facing away from the door, and then I stepped back and sat down on the floor, making myself as small as I could. The cub kept screaming, kept slamming against the wall, ignoring the box completely. Outside, through the glass, I could see Priya and Vora watching, both of them holding their breath. I stayed still. I did not reach for her. I did not speak loudly. I simply waited, the way I used to wait with frightened animals back home, letting them decide when they were ready. 30 seconds passed, then a full minute. The cub's cries began to change, growing weaker, more tired than terrified. She turned her head toward the box, her eyes wide and searching. She took one step toward it, then stopped, unsure. My chest tightened. I forced myself to stay calm, to stay still, even though every part of me wanted to reach out and pull her to safety. She took another step, sniffing at the opening of the box. Then, in one sudden movement, she pushed herself inside, curling into the small space, pressing her back against the corner where the walls met. The screaming stopped. The silence that followed was almost louder than the noise before it. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Slowly, carefully, I turned to look at the monitor Priya was holding through the glass. Her voice came through the speaker, shaking with disbelief. Her heart rate is dropping. Daniel, her heart rate is dropping. I stayed exactly where I was, watching the little shape inside the box breathing slower, calmer, safer. Minutes passed, and the cub did not move again, except for the slow rise and fall of her breathing. Priya stepped into the room quietly, still holding the data pad, her eyes fixed on the readings. "This is not possible," she whispered. "We used every piece of equipment on this station. We used medicine built for exactly this kind of crisis. Nothing worked. And you used a box." She was not scared of the room, I said quietly. She was scared of how big it was. Out there, she felt exposed, like something could reach her from any direction. In there, she only has one direction to protect. That is enough to make fear feel smaller. Vora walked in slowly, staring at the sleeping cub with an expression somewhere between confusion and wonder. "Where did you learn this?" "Nowhere special," I said. "Every scared animal on my planet already knows it. We just never needed a machine to explain it." Priya knelt beside the box, careful not to get too close, watching the steady breathing of the cub with tears forming in her eyes. "She is going to live," she said softly. "She is actually going to live." I felt the tension in my shoulders finally begin to release. My hands were still shaking from the rush of the last 20 minutes, but for the first time since the alarm went off, I could breathe normally again. Vora looked at me, her 4 eyes studying my face carefully. "You risked walking into that room with a creature strong enough to break bones, based on nothing but a memory from your childhood." "I had a feeling," I said. "Sometimes that is all you need." Priya stood up slowly, wiping her eyes. "We have decades of research on this species, and none of it prepared us for this. What else do you know that none of our records have?" I smiled, feeling the exhaustion settling into my body now that the danger had passed. You would be surprised what a species learns after living alongside animals for thousands of years. We never needed to write it all down. We just needed to remember it when it mattered. The cub shifted slightly inside the box, letting out a small, quiet sound. Nothing like the screams from before. It almost sounded peaceful. Vora looked at the small shape curled up safely in the corner, then back at me. "I think," she said slowly, "we have been underestimating you." I looked through the glass at the crew members still standing outside, their faces filled with disbelief and relief. The station that had been filled with panic only minutes ago was now quiet, calm, and safe. I glanced down at the sleeping cub one more time before standing up to leave the room. Some things, it turns out, do not need advanced science to solve. Sometimes, all it takes is understanding what it feels like to be small, scared, and in need of somewhere safe to hide. And sometimes, the simplest answer in the room is the one that saves a life.